People, it is the 15th of the 2nd. Welcome to Newspaper Breakdown. First piece of news is that Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister of Scotland, has resigned. She said it's not due to the short-term pressures that she was under after facing a number of issues, including being defeated in the UK Supreme Court with regards to a second referendum, independence referendum, and the row that had occurred over the past few weeks with regards to them putting a double rapist into a female prison after they said that they were a trans woman. She is the longest serving First Minister of Scotland. There are pluses and minuses to her reign. Fuck knows who's going to replace her. Not a dickie, but that's the news for her. Anyway, the BBC offices in India have been raided by the tax department. This is just weeks after the BBC released a documentary that was critical of Indian Prime Minister Modi. The documentary was later blocked by the government. Documents and phones of several journalists were taken. Lovely reminder that India, although it claims to be the biggest democracy in the world, is run by an authoritarian piece of shit. The BBC documentary focused on the role that Modi, who was at the time the Chief Minister of Gujarat, played in the violent Hindu-Muslim riots in the state in 2002. That particular Hindu-Muslim riots left more than 2,000 people, mostly Muslims, dead. The BBC documentary revealed that British documents from the time had found that Modi was directly responsible for not stopping the killings of Muslims during the riots. And said that the violence had all of the hallmarks of genocide, which is never good. There's no plus point to that. You know, it's fucking. I can't believe it's not genocide. And I go, oh, that's so much like genocide. Oh, but it's not. It's diet genocide. The Indian government invoked emergency laws to ban any links or clips of the documentary being shared on social media. So students across the country staged screenings of the documentary at unis, with several students arrested by police. Always nice to remember that these authoritarians, a lot of the right wing really, are whiny little bitches who are incapable of taking any form of criticism because they are so insignificant in their own selves. They must look in the mirror and be so scared of what they see looking back at them that any form of criticism, and I understand this criticism is they're saying, hey, you allowed a genocide, so I get that, but to ban it, to put in invoke emergency laws to stop it coming, that is the same as what China would do, what Russia would do. You can say all you like about the West, all the fucking awfulness about the West, the wars, the fucking mass murders, everything. Yes, we try our very best to do propaganda to make it seem like the British history and our empire was absolutely fucking delightful. But the only reason that you know it's not is because our laws allow you to know it's not. We've got 1,000 podcasts saying how the British Empire was a pile of shit, how we fucking mass murdered tons of people. We have it on the BBC, we have it on terrestrial TV, we have it on radio. For all of the bad points, and there are tons of bad points, you have to accept that we are not fully authoritarian. We have laws to take away our freedoms, do not doubt that. But comparative, and you shouldn't really have to compare, because just because something's worse than something else doesn't mean one of those things isn't bad anyway. It's like tragedy. Fucking, someone's nan died and someone's mum died. The mum is going to be worse, isn't it? But that doesn't mean that the nan's fucking delightful. You're not shitting rainbows over that. But as I say, you have to take into account. Forget America in that bit, because they do enjoy a good old-fashioned book burning. But the UK, I think we are at least. I think we're actually quite good at that particular thing. Although the right wing hate it, there are a lot of places where we can get true information of our own drowned history. Although there's a very good argument to make that a lot of our history and the evidence for the mass murders and genocides and ethnic cleansing and slavery and everything that we did, a lot of that evidence was chucked into the rivers, into the oceans. But I've read about that ages ago, and my mind can't remember everything in this world, so can't remember the details from it, but it's there somewhere, up there somewhere. A spokesman for Modi's BJP party described the BBC as the most corrupt organisation in the world. So the BBC was being honest. Of course, the BBC raids were wryly criticised by a number of the opposition. It's just the tedious little small-dicked authoritarian bastards scared of honesty. Also, you'll see, because I remember when Modi first came in and everyone was absolutely back. Yeah, fucking Modi. This is good. Finally, they've got some real democracy in India. Beautiful. Yum, 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 yum. All the leaders of the world fucking, come over, yeah, love you, Modi. He was potentially involved in genocide when he got in, so fuck him. Next piece of news: for the third consecutive month in January, inflation has fallen. Whoop whoop. Although it's still in double digits, it is currently at 10.1%, which is still remaining towards the highs that we've had for 40 years, coming down from 10.5% at its top. The latest fall was driven by a continual drop in petrol and diesel prices for motorists and at the start of the year, as well as a fall in air and coach travel. The restaurant, cafe and takeaway prices have also fallen. That's why inflation's gone down. Very simple. Prices get less, inflation goes down. What else have we got? We've got the Equality and Human Rights Commission has, after 18 months, taken the Labour Party out of the special measures imposed on them due to their anti-Semitism. The EHRC had found that Labour had acted unlawfully in its treatment of Jewish members under Corbyn's leadership. Of course, Corbyn supporters will say that that is incorrect, and that actually all of the Jews are to blame. little Labour anti-Semitism joke there, just for yourselves. It should be pointed out at this point that the racism, Islamophobia and other forms of bigotry, both in the Labour Party and the Tory Party, are largely ignored. In fact, whilst all of the anti-Semitism was being chucked at Labour, quite rightly, you shouldn't be anti-Semitic. I think you should hate people on an individual basis, not as a group. Unless it's everyone, then you can collectively hate the idea of humanity. I'm right behind that, for that, 100%. Get rid of them, replace them with penguins. Well, when the anti-Semitism was going on over in the Labour Party, over in the Tory Party, not only was there anti-Semitism, there was also mass Islamophobia. Of course, there was also Islamophobia in the Labour Party, and there was racism in the Labour Party, and there's currently transphobia in the Labour Party, and all of that can also be attributed to the Tories, because a lot of people are bigoted. That's simply that. It's not just Corbyn, but Corbyn, a lot like Brexit voters, the far right, the far left, and most humans are unable to take any responsibility for their own actions because they're fucking children. Anyway, speaking on the far right, far-right activists have been targeting communities and other campaign groups to try to exploit the tensions between communities in Britain. The most active branch of fuckfaces is the Patriotic alternative. Always be careful if a group has got patriotic in their name. The same with national, democracy, liberal, socialist, anything like that. Run. But the patriotic alternative grew out of the splits in the BNP and other groups, so only the shit floating to the top. Led by a digitally literate younger generation looking to show themselves as a white pride organisation concerned with the environment and heritage, that is, the white environment and white heritage, one can assume. Also, if you've got pride of the colour of your skin, no, stop it. Absolutely stop it. Be like me having pride at the fact the sun comes up every day. Nothing to do with me. It's the problem with pride. Or if the only piece of pride that you can possibly muster in your life is something that has absolutely nothing to do with you, you rightly have no pride. Ridiculous, this fucking world. Going, oh yeah, I'll tell you what I'm proud of. Something that I had no fucking say in. Oh, congratulations, I hope the rest of your life is just as fucking fulfilling. Experts on the far right are at pains not to overstate the role of a group whose membership is thought to still be just a few hundred, but said that they now sense a potential moment of danger as activists attempt to replicate the scenes in Liverpool just on Friday in protests to come against asylum seekers in hotels across the country. The problem, of course, with the likes of Patriotic Alternative is that they're so desperate for relevance. It's a factor for a lot of the far right. They require relevance. They need relevance, and they don't get it without doing something extreme, getting their name out there. But what the PA are attempting to do is to downplay their extremism to bring in the stupid, who, although are massively easily led and are, again, stupid. If you said to them, hey, do you want to join our group? We're a big fan of Nazis. Even they would go, nah, not for me. So they tend to downplay that. However, in reality, the PA is a mad conspiracy theorist shit heap that has a hard-on for the Third Reich. So, should be a fun little group to keep an eye on, hey? So, one news story left. Yeah. Yeah. Whitehall officials have strategized a series of scenarios about the economic fallout that could follow if China went and invaded Taiwan. Concerns over major disruption to global supply chains and consequences of any coordinated Western responses had been examined by civil servants as part of a routine forward screening exercise. It's good. It's nice to know that our civil servants are thinking forward. A Foreign Office insider has said that there was no change to the scale or urgency of the work. Once again, good news. Sunak is currently under pressure from some in his party to change China from a systematic challenge to a threat ahead of the updated UK defence and security strategy. China, of course, claims that Taiwan is a province of China. However, Taiwan, with their democratic government, do not agree. The response would probably have to be more complex than what we're doing with Russia with regards to the likes of sanctions on Russia and targeting those close to Putin. One of the major concerns if China attempts to invade Taiwan comes from microchips, with Taiwan being a major manufacturer of microchips, like the fucking major manufacturer of microchips in the world. There is currently a short supply of microchips, meaning that even a small disruption to the supply chains would be problematic. But it's one of the reasons you could argue that not allowing Russia to bend Ukraine over is so important, because if they can, as I've said many times before, if they get to bend over Ukraine, then China is going to be roofing fucking Taiwan pretty damn quickly. Anyway, this is all done. I hope it's been of interest to you, and I shall catch you later. Bye.